The entire restaurant seemed to fall silent for one unforgettable moment as every eye turned toward the lonely man sitting by himself. He wore a simple olive green t-shirt instead of a designer suit, his hands were rough from years of hard work, and a faded navy tattoo peeked from beneath his sleeve. He wasn't waiting for anyone. He had already accepted that no one was coming. But just as he lowered his eyes to his untouched dinner, one of the wealthiest women in the country walked across the room, stopped beside his table, and asked the question that would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe that kindness deserves a second chance and that one act of compassion can change a life, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Forever. Your support helps us bring more heartwarming stories to the world. It was a bright spring afternoon in the coastal city of Charleston, where sunlight reflected off the harbor and families filled the sidewalks with laughter. 40-year-old Navy veteran Colton Hayes had spent the morning visiting the cemetery where his wife rested beneath a white marble stone surrounded by fresh flowers. 3 years had passed since cancer had taken her away, yet every visit felt as painful as the first. After leaving the cemetery, he stopped by his daughter Ivy's school to deliver the lunch she had accidentally forgotten. Seeing her smile was enough to keep him moving, even when his own heart felt unbearably heavy. Being a single father had become Colton's greatest mission. Every morning began before sunrise. He packed lunches, braided Ivy's long brown hair after watching countless online tutorials, cleaned their small rented home, worked long shifts repairing boats at the local marina, and somehow still found enough energy to read bedtime stories every evening. Money was always tight. Some months he quietly skipped meals so Ivy would never know they were struggling. She believed her father simply wasn't hungry. He never corrected her because protecting her childhood mattered more than his own comfort. That afternoon happened to be Colton's 41st birthday, although almost no one remembered. His daughter had made him a handmade birthday card decorated with blue crayons and tiny paper stars. She had apologized because she couldn't buy him a gift. Colton hugged her tightly and told her that the card was worth more than anything money could ever buy. After dropping her off at an after-school art program, he decided to do something he hadn't done in years. He would treat himself to one nice meal before returning to pick up Ivy. He walked into one of the city's finest restaurants feeling completely out of place. Men wore tailored suits, women wore elegant dresses, and expensive watches sparkled beneath the afternoon sunlight pouring through enormous windows. Several guests glanced at Colton's ordinary clothes before quickly looking away. A hostess almost assumed he had entered by mistake until he politely asked for a table for one. He sat quietly in a corner near the window, watching happy families celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. He couldn't stop thinking about the birthdays he once shared with his wife and little Ivy, when laughter had filled their tiny kitchen instead of silence. For a brief moment loneliness felt heavier than anything he had carried during his military service. Across the dining room sat Vivian Sterling, a self-made billionaire known across the country for building one of the largest humanitarian shipping companies in the world. Despite her extraordinary success, she often preferred observing people rather than drawing attention to herself. She noticed the lonely veteran almost immediately. It wasn't his appearance that caught her attention. It was the quiet sadness hidden behind his eyes and the respectful way he thanked every staff member who served him. Vivian had grown up with very little. Before becoming one of the world's richest entrepreneurs, she had watched her own father struggle after returning home from military service. Society had forgotten him long before his family ever could. Looking at Colton awakened memories she had never truly left behind. Without telling anyone why, Vivian stood up, walked across the elegant dining room, and politely asked whether she could join him for lunch. Colton looked around in confusion, convinced she must have mistaken him for someone else. But she smiled warmly and repeated the request. Hesitantly, he nodded. They spent the next hour sharing stories about life instead of wealth. Colton spoke about serving his country, losing his wife, raising Ivy alone, and learning that true courage often meant getting out of bed on the hardest mornings. He never complained or asked for sympathy. He simply told his story with quiet dignity. Vivian shared her own journey from poverty to unimaginable success. She admitted that despite owning private jets and luxurious homes, loneliness still visited people regardless of their bank accounts. Money had solved many problems, but it had never replaced genuine human connection. As they talked, restaurant staff noticed something remarkable. The billionaire laughed more during that lunch than she had during any public appearance in years. Colton, meanwhile, smiled in a way that suggested hope had quietly returned after years of grief. When lunch ended, Colton thanked her sincerely and prepared to pay his bill. He discovered it had already been covered. Assuming Vivian had paid for it, he thanked her once again. She simply wished him a happy birthday and walked away before he could say another word. Colton thought that would be the end of their unexpected meeting. It wasn't. The following Monday, he received a phone call asking him to visit the headquarters of Sterling Maritime Foundation. Confused but curious, he accepted. Inside the modern glass building, Vivian greeted him personally. She explained that during their conversation she had realized his leadership, discipline, humility, and integrity were qualities impossible to teach. Her foundation was launching a nationwide veterans mentorship program, helping former service members find employment, housing, and emotional support. She wanted Colton to lead the entire initiative. The position offered a generous salary, flexible hours, healthcare, educational opportunities for Ivy, and something even more valuable, a renewed sense of purpose. At first, Colton hesitated. He worried he wasn't qualified enough. Vivian smiled and reminded him that real leadership wasn't measured by degrees or titles. It was measured by the lives someone lifted while carrying their own burdens. Months later, hundreds of struggling veterans found jobs through the program. Families stayed together. Children saw their parents smile again. Communities discovered heroes who had quietly been forgotten. Most importantly, Ivy watched her father transform. The tired man who once questioned whether he was doing enough slowly became someone who inspired thousands of others. She proudly told her classmates that her dad didn't just fix boats anymore. He helped rebuild lives. On Colton's next birthday, the foundation surprised him with a community celebration held outdoors beneath clear blue daytime skies. Veterans, volunteers, children, and families gathered together. Ivy handed her father another handmade birthday card, but this time she added one extra sentence. "Dad, you taught me that the richest people aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones with the biggest hearts." Colton looked across the smiling crowd and realized that the greatest gift he had received wasn't the job, the salary, or the recognition. It was being seen. One simple invitation to share a table had reminded a grieving father that his story still mattered, his sacrifices were not forgotten, and hope often arrives when we least expect it. If this story touched your heart, please write, "Kindness still exists," in the comments below. We'd love to know you're part of this caring community. As the afternoon sun illuminated the smiling faces gathered around him, Colton understood that kindness never asks about someone's bank account, clothes, or past. It simply reaches across the table and says, "You don't have to sit alone anymore." If this story inspired you, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Forever. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion can still change lives, one simple act of kindness at a time.